All right, so here we are now. We've got a view of a tape measure view going on. It's kind of ugly, but hey, what can you expect? All right, so here's our view. And the next thing we want to do is we're going to start thinking about the controller and the use case. So what I want to do is, we're not going to do the adding quite yet, but let's say, we assume this one's already in here, and I want to be able to click up here on the head or the body of the tape measure, and when the tape measure tool is enabled, I'm able to drag this guy around, and it'll just kind of or pivot around its start position. So I want to click here and drag around. So let's jump back over to Bamboo and talk about what we're looking at here. Got this crazy diagram going. So specifically, we're talking about, let me get my mouse here. We're talking about this side of the this side of the flow up here. So we're talking about controllers and use cases at this point. And it's interesting to note, I drew this diagram specifically to kind of roughly illustrate how, way at the end we have the entities way down here. And coming out of the entities, we have this presenter model, which does some mapping to create the view model, which makes it ready for our framework, right? I mean, it makes sense. This is the adapter layer. It's adapting our entity out to our framework. We kind of have the same system going on where the controller is somewhat like the presenter model. It is in the adapter layer. It's in this green layer over here. The controller, it takes input and adapts it to the use case, which is then an action. It's a verb. The use cases, you'll see they're a function that's usually like a verb. In this case, it's going to be drag tape measure. Drag tape body is probably what we'll call that. So it's a verb. It's a function. It's stateless. That's what the use case is going to be. We also want to start thinking about our controllers. So we're going to be doing this with a left-click mouse and a drag is what we're doing right now. But we're very soon going to be doing this with a finger. You're going to be touching on that tape body and dragging around with your finger. And at some point we might use like a 3D stylus in here where you can grab it and drag it around. And so the things that determine what code goes in, so as we think about building out, well, what's going to go in the use case and what's going to go in the controller, we're going to be trying to differentiate between what is specific to the input control, to the input device, stylus versus touch versus mouse, and what is generic, like it can be used by all those controllers. If it can be used by all the controllers, we want to distill this thing down. That is the use case. All right. So let's talk about the math behind this guy. I'm going to come over here. We're going to make a new page because this page is getting a little crazy. All right. So now we're talking about, I need to do some, where are we at? There we are. Give me 1 second. I want to turn my gestures off. Touch on off. There we go. Touch is off. Perfect. And I want to turn precision mode off. All right. This is some of my tablet stuff. Okay. So we're talking about dragging the tape. Now let's think about this from an entity's point of view. Let me grab a color here real quick. Let's go back to those original colors we had, these guys. All right, so we're gonna have a tape measure that's out here. It's like this, right? And it's gonna have the head of it, or I keep calling it the head, the body of it here. And we've got this point here, and this is PS, and we've got a point out here. It's kind of hard to see it. Let's just put it right there. And this is P end, right? Remember, this is in 2D. So when we actually drag the entity itself, when the entity changes places, we're going to be changing the PE position, right? So let me grab another color. Let's just grab this. This is going to be our click and drag action. Oops. All right, so over here. So First off, you know what? Let me draw this a little bit less cluttered. I'm going to make this box kind of big so that we can see it, and because I want to show a little bit of an offset idea in here too. So this is a very large, well, actually I want my, and this is the position right here, PE. That's the point, the center or the end that we've calculated in an XY. So this is an XY, and this is also an XY. All right, 2D vectors. This over here is fixed. Not going to change. This over here, we're going to have a mouse input. And it's very rare that your mouse is going to land right on top of this position. So let's say our mouse input is right here. So we click down right here. And again, we're thinking in 2D coordinates. Okay, so first thing, we click here, and then we drag. I'm just going to drag it a long ways. Drag way out to here. All right, so now this is our mouse after our drag, our point in 2D space. What we want is we want to imagine this vector that runs from, we're going to have this vector. This is called our offset vector right here. So we're going to call this, I hate to call it O, but we might have to call it offset. Well, we'll just call it offset. We have offset. Oof, spelled that wrong. So this is offset. And that's going to be equal to, let's see, let's get this noted here. This is going to be pick 0, and we're going to just think about this in XY for now. So it's just, and then this is pick 1. So you got your press and your drag. And so you got pick 1 over here, and this is also X and Y. All right. So offset, these are all global. So offset is going to be whatever the vector is for pick. It's going to be offset. Let me get color right. Is going to be oh, why do you have to do that? It's going to be PE, which is a vector. I'm going to start marking these guys as vectors too so we can see it. This is a vector. Minus pick minus, P pick 0 vector. All right. So got a little offset vector. No big deal. That's pretty easy. The reason why we need that is because now we've pressed over here. 2D. That was our press. We're dragged over to here. We need to be calculating this position. So what we're going to do, we got to calculate the new PE position. But we want to keep this offset vector in here. So I'm just going to try to get this offset vector to look about the same. So it's about there. So this is still offset. Same value. It's not changing. Now we can get our, that gives us this as our PE now. So now I'm going to try to draw, so now we can, let me see if I can draw this. We're going to have a new dashed line. It's going to be a little squiggly. Coming over to here like this, and this is our new body right here. Not really well lined up, but hopefully you get the idea. So this is PE. E, we'll just give a little prime after it to let us know it's different. And so now we can calculate PE prime is going to equal pick 1. Let's change the color. This is a vector. It's going to equal pick 1, the position of pick 1, plus offset. All right. So what do we need to know? Well, a couple things we need to know. First off, we're going to need to calculate our offset. So we need to know where we were at the start of this. Or we need our pick 0. And we also need our pick 1. So we need our pick 0, our pick 1. Let me just kind of underline the thing, circle the things we need. So we're going to need this. We're going to need this. We're going to need this. Pick 0. We're going to need, this is ultimately what we want to calculate. So we need pick 1. Got the offset here. And offset is calculated from the original pick and the original position. Okay. Notice we don't need anything over here on the on this side of stuff. We don't need the fixed position. That's just going to stay. All right. Let's see. I'm going to take a second and think. You know what? As I looked at this, I realized something. This offset is equal, right? So we can avoid that. Let me grab a color here. Let me grab this color. This is exactly the same as this vector here. So let me just draw this actually. Right? This offset kind of negates itself or washes out in the end. So actually what we need is we just need this vector. This is, we're going to call this pick delta. It's a vector. And it's going to be equal to pick 1 minus pick 0. So what we really get now is we get P E prime, the final thing, the one we're actually trying to calculate, is going to be equal to P E plus, these are all vectors, plus pick delta. Right? Notice we don't need the offset. That offset was just a little bit of a red herring. So, pick delta. Okay. I think we're getting to the point where, notice that none of this stuff has anything to do with the input device itself. We're assuming we're getting a pick 1 and a pick 0, start and end, or maybe what we should expect to get is a change, so a drag amount. That's probably what we should get, is a drag amount in the 2D vector. Now, from the outside, it may not be obvious that the drag amount, so the controllers, I know from experience that the controllers are going to be working in the 3D space. We're going to be, essentially, if we're talking about a ray, or we're talking about mouse, we're going to be shooting a mouse ray in. We're going to be hitting a plane. We're going to drag that mouse ray, we're going to drag the mouse, and then we're going to hit the plane again. And we're going to get a world vector that runs between these 2 points. That's going to be a vector 3. Now that's going to happen in all three of, that doesn't matter what the input device is. The input device is always going to cast a ray into the scene and hit a plane and do that kind of stuff. So, couple thoughts. If it's going to be done in all the input devices, the controller, we can push that logic into the use case. And so what that means is the use case itself would take a 3D vector, do the conversion to a 2D vector, and then do this math. That conversion's fine. It should be easy. So I think what we're going to expect for our use case is going to be called drag tape body. And it's going to get, well, we're going to need the ID of the tape. This is a string. And we're going to need our drag distance, or drag delta. and this is going to be a vector 3. So the use case will be responsible for converting that 3D vector back into 2D vectors to send into the entity. That makes sense because all of our controllers will be able to calculate this drag delta, essentially how much has it moved along a plane or a surface or whatever we're going to be doing. And then this guy will take care of that. All right, so what we're going to do now, how much time have we taken? 15 minutes. We're going to stop here, and this was just the theory behind how we're going to make our use case. This is going to be a use case because there's nothing specific about a controller yet. So let's go ahead and build out a use case, and we'll do that in the next video.